It is the Alison Arngrim show. Yes, and I'm Alison Arngrim. Okay, some of you may remember me as Evil Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie, but thankfully tonight I am Alison Arngrim, and tonight is the Alison Arngrim show. And here on the Alison Arngrim show, we talk about things that make you feel good. People like the TV shows and the movies that made us feel good, the people who made them, and people are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. I don't know if this show will make you feel good specifically tonight, I gotta tell you. But you will feel better knowing that this man I'm about to talk to is on the job fighting a really screwed up, incredibly terrible thing. Um, this guy is amazing. This guy's amazing. Harlan just turned me on to him. I've just met him now, and I'm like, wow. I don't know how he does it all. I'm reading his resume here. Eduardo Gonçalves has been a speechwriter for British politicians. He runs a government department. He's run a government department in the Middle East, helped save the world's most endangered big cat, the Iberian lynx, from extinction. Former journalist with the BBC, he exposed a major nuclear accident cover-up and secret human radiation experiments. What he's been doing is fighting big trophy hunting and horrible, horrible abuse of animals. You know, I'm friends with Yotipi Hedren, who has her fabulous sanctuary, Shambhala, where animals that have been abused here in the U.S., she rescues them. Well, so you've heard about all the things like caged hunting. Yeah, just like taking a shot at an animal can't go anywhere. Unspeakable things are going on like this all over the world, but the extent to which people are taking this is way beyond anything you probably even thought of. You went, oh, yeah, yeah, people hunt. Oh, no, no, no. People are doing weird stuff. And there was a campaign out of ban trophy hunting. There was a documentary. There are books. And my guest, Eduardo Gonçalves, has the absolute scoop on all of this. And reading what he has said is horrifying, but we're going to find out about it. Welcome to the show, Eduardo.
Thank you very much indeed, Alison.
I'm just, I'm reading all of these things and just going, okay, oh my God, what is wrong with people? You hear about hunting. This is not hunting. I'm going to go shoot an animal because I need to eat it. This is not hunting. This is not, oh, culling the herd because we had some deer and there were too many and we're going. This is none of that. This is absolutely none of that. This is people finding animals to shoot they shouldn't even be shooting. Also, this is the anniversary of the death of the lion Cecil.
That's right. It's 10 years, 10 years since Cecil was killed by that Minnesota dentist, Walter Palmer. And I mean, you'll probably remember at the time, it was an absolutely huge news story across America, across the world. And I think one of the reasons that it was such a big news story is that people were shocked and horrified to learn that this was still going on. You know, this is something that belongs to the 18th, 19th century when British explorers first arrived in Africa and were shooting lions and leopards and writing wonderful adventurous stories about
The
their,
pit helmets and
and they don't realize, and they didn't realize in 2015 when this happened that there was still going on, and hence the horror. But here's the thing, since Cecil was killed in 2015, trophy hunters have shot another 10,000 lions, another 10,000 lions. And in fact, trophy hunters are shooting tens of thousands of endangered animals every year. So cheetahs, polar bears, leopards, elephants, rhinos, hippos, monkeys. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Safari Club International, which is the biggest trophy hunting body in the world, it has a record book. It's a bit like the Guinness Book of World Records. And in it, it classifies over 900 species and subspecies which it takes record entries in. In other words, it will accept entries, and they have got this network of about 2,500 official measurers spread around the world. So if you shoot a big lion and you think it's so big that it deserves a place in the record book, you contact one of these official measurers, and they'll come along. Firstly, they'll wait for they measure the skull, and what they do is they boil the skull first,
hey,
take the
ha,
skin
ha.
off, yeah, and then when it's dried, then they measure it firstly from top to bottom, from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin, and then all the way across, and they add the numbers up in inches, and it's got to be at least 23 inches total to merit a place in the record book. And there are some trophy hunters that have got, I mean, dozens of entries. I mean, one guy who comes to mind immediately is Steve Chancellor, who's quite a prominent donor and fundraiser for the current president. And he has broken the world record for shooting the world's largest lion. In fact, he's got two currently in the all-time top 10. And he currently holds the world record for shooting the largest leopard ever known to humanity. And him and his wife and his son have got entries in the record book for shooting huge leopards and elephants and rhinos and so on and so forth. And the industry doesn't just have record books, it has award schemes that encourage and give prizes to the people who shoot the most animals. So, for example, I mean, George Harms, he's a New Jersey property developer. He's won around 80 different prizes. If you add it all together, that's the equivalent of about 800 animals that he shot.
And I know this
And
is the thing. You name names. You're very specific. You're not like, hey, this is happening. You're naming all the organization. You're naming people by name. And this guy who lives in, they know you're naming names. Have any of these people come after you, threatened you, sued you, made a fuss about this?
no, they can't because I've got it all. I joined Safari Club International, obviously not under my real name, but I became a member. And as a result, I was
You
able to
went
access.
undercover. You actually went into a hunting club undercover to go
Yeah.
on safari with these people and find out what they were doing.
So I've spent the last 4 years undercover within the trophy hunting industry. And during that time, along with a colleague of mine, we met with trophy hunters, we spoke with them, we corresponded with them. They sent me photos and videos of themselves hunting and with their victims. We visited their trophy rooms. We went to see the workshops of the taxidermists that they use. And yeah, we went on to the hunting estates as well. So, and they opened up to me. They told me how they would get an adrenaline rush from shooting a lion, how they cried with joy after shooting their first elephant. We went into a trophy room that had 500 animals in it, including the body of a polar bear. We were showed around estates where you could shoot rhinos, and where, in fact, the owner he said that he'd shot a giraffe himself there because he thought it was gay.
What? What?
Yeah,
Wait.
yeah, I know.
I'm sorry. I thought the giraffe was gay.
He thought it was gay, so he shot it.
How do you think a giraffe is gay? Was it? Did it have different color spots than the other giraffes? Why did he think the giraffe was gay? And why
I
did he
mean,
need to shoot a gay giraffe? What the hell?
he probably just thought that was a good joke. Of course, I had to laugh along, to pretend that I was really impressed by him.
He shot the
There was,
giraffe because he thought it was gay. Okay, I'm not going to get that out of my head for a while.
yeah, right. And we had guys who would, they'd be laughing as they told us in the evening. They'd spend the whole day shooting all sorts of animals, and then in the evening they'd have dinner, they'd have a whole load of beers, and then they'd go out and shoot monkeys out of the trees, and they'd say that'd be really
Just
good
for
fun,
kicks.
just like that, just for fun.
Now, Cecil the lion wasn't Cecil the lion on a protected preserve. Cecil the
Yeah,
lion wasn't just loose. Nobody was supposed to be getting anywhere near him. People say, well, we should have animals. Some of them should be in sanctuaries or preserves. Cecil was in a
he
sanctuary.
was. He was in a national park, and the trophy hunting company, Bushman Safaris, they knew that they couldn't go and shoot him there, even though Walter Palmer had all this money. He wanted to go and shoot a big lion, and Cecil was a famous lion because he was, he's particularly beautiful. He had this big black mane, and all these,
Fan club.
photographic safari people would come and take photos of him, and he was like really used to human. He was a bit of a media star, a bit of a Hollywood diva, really. He loved it when people would come and take photos of him. So he'd allow, the vehicles with the guys with their cameras to come quite close. He would be quite nonchalant, and he would just roll around looking gorgeous. And so he was really popular in the area. So what happened to get him out was there was a trophy hunter who shot an elephant. Now, usually when you shoot an elephant to make the trophy, all you need is the skull and the skin, and obviously, in the elephant's case, you also need the tusks. So they removed those for the trophy hunter to take home, and then they got the meat from this elephant. They put it on the back of a pickup truck. They dragged it around the edge of the national park to lure him out. And then they set up a blind. So where Walter Palmer would sit, and they would hang the meat there. And eventually, Cecil got the whiff, and he came out of the park. He came sniffing, and Walter Palmer shot him at point blank range. But here's the thing: he didn't manage to kill him instantaneously. In fact, most trophy hunters fail to kill animals quickly or cleanly.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the mythology of, well, it's humane because it's one bullet through the head. None of that is actually
No,
happening.
no.
That none
And in
of that
fact,
is true.
a number of studies by US authorities have shown that the majority of animals are not killed quickly. They die slow, painful deaths. Some of them are lost completely. And what also happens is that the trophy hunting industry gives you special prizes if you shoot a big game animal with a novelty weapon, such as a crossbow, a bow and
Novelty, no,
arrow.
novelty weapon.
Yeah, this is what they call them. This is what they call them for real, and including a revolver. So if you shoot a rhino with a revolver, you're going to get a special prize. If you shoot a hippo with an air gun, you get a special mention in the record book. And Walter Palmer, he liked shooting things with bows and arrows. He'd already shot leopards and other animals with bows and arrows. And he was an award winner with Safari Club International. And he wanted a special award for shooting African big game animals with just a bow and arrow. So he shot Cecil with a bow, failed to kill him. Now he had a choice. He could have put Cecil out of his misery by shooting him with a rifle. At
Why
least
would
the animal would
you?
die relatively quickly. He said no. Why? Because that would invalidate his claim to the prize. So he said, you know what? I'm going to go back to camp. I'll have dinner. I'll have a nice night's sleep. Come back in the morning. The lion will be dead and I'll take it home. And that's what he did. He went back to camp, had his supper, went to sleep. He came back the following morning. Well, Cecil was still alive. They couldn't see him. He'd actually managed to drag himself under a bush. But they could hear him because his lungs were literally filling up with blood. So he was making this horrible rasping sound as he was literally struggling for breath. And anyway, so Walter Palmer shot him with a second bow, and and as we know, that eventually killed him. And of course, they then realized that he had a radio collar on him because he was part of.
He was on a. He was in the park. It was not just a random freak. What? The,
No,
yes,
he was
had
part of an.
a collar, had a radio collar on him, and
Exactly.
he killed.
He was part of an Oxford University study, which was trying to find out what's the big threats against lions at the moment in Africa. What are the things that are killing them? And guess
A
what?
guy
That
named
study,
Walter, apparently.
well, the study found that the biggest single cause of lion mortality was trophy hunters, right? And in fact, that study led to Zimbabwe, where Cecil was killed, banning the trophy hunting of lions. And indeed, Zambia did the same because there was a study there, found exactly the same thing. But then, of course, the trophy hunting lobby said, whoa, 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 you can't stop our sport. They got involved and the bans were lifted. And we now have this catastrophic situation, and I use the word advisedly. In the 1970s, there were around 200,000 lions in Africa. Now, the latest studies suggest there may be only 13,500. That's a collapse of over 90%
Yeah,
in 5 decades. We are literally looking at the possibility, and there are people in the US administration who believe this could happen. It might be possible that lions could go extinct in the next few decades. I mean, because it's not
sooner.
just the number of lions that are being shot. There's another thing we need to bear in mind here. It's that trophy hunters, by definition, shoot the largest animals because they're the most impressive. They're the ones that you want the head of above your fireplace or the body of in your living room. So they shoot the biggest animals. And of course, those are the strongest, the fittest animals in evolutionary terms. So this the very opposite of natural selection is going on. And scientists call it
Right, exactly.
artificial
That's
selection,
yeah.
right?
Hello.
So um, literally, you've got smaller and weaker lions being left to breed and to pass on their genes. So scientists have found that the gene pool of lions has shrunk by 15% over the last century. And in fact, one of the things I was able to access as a member of Safari Club International was the records of the lions that were being shot by its members. And they show that the lions that they're shooting nowadays are quite a bit smaller than the ones that they were shooting a generation ago.
Because
There's
they
only
killed all the big ones.
exactly, and the only ones that are breeding are small lions that are passing on
Ooh.
small lion genes. And so the scientists have now said that it could be that you just shoot 5% of the remaining pride male lions, and that will be enough to spark extinction of the species, to make extinction irreversible. And it's not just lions that are being affected. I mean, another example is elephants. So again, the tusks of elephants are smaller than they once were, and you've got a lot more tuskless elephants, adult elephants that have no tusks. Now, tusks serve a purpose.
Oh,
They
yeah.
are there, for example, in periods of drought, so that the elephant can find water under a dry riverbed. If it can't find that water, it's going to die from drought. And many more animals, elephants included, but other species as well, are dying of drought because, as we know, Africa is getting hotter and drier. And species aren't able to evolve quickly enough to adapt to these rapid environmental changes. So it's not just the number of animals and the fact that they're shooting and killing large numbers from dwindling populations, they're taking the strongest animals out of the gene pool and thus wrecking the prospects of those species and their likelihood of survival.
Now, there's some of the things, I mean, you've included like, because as you said, the quotes never end. There's like a page and a half of like things people said to you in the course of the documentary. And you've written a total of 8 books. There's currently now a trilogy of books about this, plus a documentary. But some of the quotes where you've gotten directly from people because you met these people. My personal record is 20 elephants in 75 minutes, which is literally the title of one of your books. Not even I could tell you all the animals I've hunted. It's in the thousands. But when we talk about the motivation, and we have said 20 elephants, 75 minutes, that this isn't, as I said, there's the mythology of, well, yeah, humane, one both head, there's maybe some logical. No, some of them are saying very peculiar things. I got another shot in, and we got the death moan that they're looking to actually inflict pain. They're not looking to kill them dead, to eat them. They're talking about pain here. It was absolutely dead. I shot it again to make a point. The exhilaration is complete. This is all really weird and does not sound like someone who's trying to help nature in any sort of way here. Take plenty of cash, plan on killing more than you want. You can't stop. They're all weird quotes like this. We have a large wall of animals we call the wall of pain.
Yeah.
So they know
Yeah,
that they're inflicting pain and
this is
suffering, and this is part of the attractive. Some of these quotes are so weird. They don't sound like hunting. They sound like there's some bizarre thing. Like they sound like the sort of things you'd expect from a serial killer. But some of the things they keep talking about, their exhilaration, the fire of desire for this trophy, etc., weird things. I don't know what I'm getting from these quotes. Some of this sounds like things people say who are talking about a sexual fetish. Some of this has that tone. Some of these quotes very specifically have a tone that sound like a sexual fetish. Is that a thing that is going on with some of these hunters?
it sounds like it. I mean, there's a couple of other quotes that really echo that out. So, I mean, there's one guy who said, "My knees tremble when I have a target in the crosshairs," and another one said, "This is about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on."
What? Yeah,
And
well,
so
he just
there is.
went there.
Right, right, and I mean, you talk about serial killers. I mean, these people, many of them are serial killers. I mean, if you take the FBI definition or the DOJ definition of serial killers, which is killing one or more people in this case, but in different locations, and so it fits that description because I mean, the people who say, for example, I shot 20 elephants in 75 minutes. The guy who said that, he shot over 4,000 animals, including 1,300 elephants and 340 lions. He's even shot a couple of gorillas. But get this, he was absolutely insistent that I only hunt in moderation.
What?
There was
There's a mythology that there's some sort of humane hunting people, but this is ridiculous number of animals where you couldn't even have space to put them all up if you said it was. It makes no sense, and they're literally talking about that it is not even the trophy. It is not any sort of culling the herd. It is in fact the act of killing that they are enjoying on a physical level, like a sex act, is what these people literally are saying.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's really freaking weird, which would explain why there's so much money involved in this.
Well, it is, well, absolutely. And actually, the industry kind of fuels that addiction. So it has all of these prizes, which it gives out specifically to encourage hunters to shoot lots of animals. And quite a few of them are like computer games. So you know how in a computer game you have different levels that you have to go up. So like I mean, I'm of the older generation, so I remember playing Space Invaders. So you had to
That was a good
shoot
one.
X number of aliens to get onto level two,
Right,
and then to get onto level three, you had to shoot even more aliens. Level
right,
four,
right.
even more. The hunting prizes are exactly the same. So let's take one prize. It's called the Hunting Achievement Award. It's got 5 levels. So to complete level one, you have to shoot animals from at least 17 different species. Level two is 30 different species. Level three is 50. Four is 100. And then the top level, which they call the Diamond Prize, you have to shoot animals from 125 different species. So it's not even 125 animals. They've got to be
Different
of
species.
125 different species.
You start running out of things to kill. The other thing is there's also, you mentioned the monkeys, you mentioned gorillas. There's no stopping here with shooting primates and animals that have already been found to be of extremely high intelligence and
Well,
animals that have some reasoning. So you're getting when you start getting into murdering the primates to shooting gorillas and monkeys, etc. How much closer to killing a human? Are there people who that they're getting off on this because it's like killing a person at that point?
Well, there was a British writer, actually, A. Gill, who back in the 90s, I think it was, he went on a trophy hunt to shoot a baboon specifically. And he wrote about this afterwards because because they are so close to us genetically. I mean, we share over 90% of our DNA with them. And he wanted to know what it actually felt like to kill a human. And this was the closest that he could get. And yeah, I mean, I mean, trophy hunters shoot around 10 different monkey species. So baboons are a type of monkey. And, vervet monkeys, shakma baboons, grivets, geladas, etc., colobus monkeys. There's a whole range of them. In fact, I was looking at the numbers just earlier today. So trophy hunters shot around 2,500 monkeys last year. And yeah, these are creatures that are, so close to us genetically.
And
And
people who actually have said the words, I really wanted to kill a person, but this was as close as I could get.
absolutely. And there was one trophy hunter I spoke to who said, I've got this obsession. I have to go and shoot a baboon. I've got an obsession about shooting a baboon. And and there was 2 words actually that came across again and again and again in the conversations and the correspondence. As what motivates these people, because this is what I was trying to get to. It wasn't with this new series of
Why?
books. Exactly. It was to answer that question, why? What motivates them? And I wanted them to sort of, tell their stories in their own words. And there was 2 words really that came across. And the first was adrenaline, and the other is addiction. So the third book is actually called Mainlining on Heroin. And this was a quote, again, a genuine quote by a trophy hunter who says, look, trophy hunting, it's like mainlining on heroin, because once you get on it, you can't get off it.
There's
And this
also reference to things done with animals. We know there's a lot of problem with things, bears, gallbladders, and things that people use in various medicine. But there's a reference here to lions, lion wine, and lion cake. Now, we've had
okay,
people swear on our show, so I'm sorry. What in the fuck is lion wine and lion cake?
right. So
Just what the hell are we even talking about? What is lion wine like that? It doesn't even make any sense. What is lion wine?
So the, let me just explain a little bit of background. International law, you would think, would protect endangered animals from things like trophy hunting. And you might have heard of laws such as CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So supposedly that bans or severely restricts any trade in wildlife. So it means that you can't shoot a rhino in order to take its horn and sell that.
Which was a big thing for a while. There were people who
Was a
believed
big
that
thing.
rhino horn had magical properties. Yes.
Exactly. So it bans poaching. You can't shoot an elephant in order to cut off its tusks and again sell that in the market. And that's all well and good, except there's a great big loophole in that law. It says trophy hunting is fine. So it doesn't matter how endangered the animal is. If you say that you're doing it just for yourself, for sport, or for a souvenir or whatever, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And so, guess what? The wildlife traffickers suddenly saw an opening through which to conduct illegal wildlife trade through this loophole in international law. So there was one crime syndicate in particular that absolutely mastered this. It was run by a chap in Thailand. And what he would do, he would go to Vietnam, he would recruit prostitutes to get on a plane with him to fly to South Africa. She would pretend to be a trophy hunter. I mean, she'd be plucked from a village or from a slum, and she'd turn up in, jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers.
Grab some
Supposedly,
poor random girl. Could you be a trophy hunter? Okay, I guess
yeah,
I'm a trophy hunter. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And she'd be paid what
Random.
$500 for it, and which of course was for her a great deal of money. And she wouldn't even know how to hold a rifle, let alone how to shoot a rhino. And so the professional hunting guide would actually have to shoot the rhino for her. And then you have, the bit of paper that you have to sign to say that, you're taking this as a trophy for yourself. And of course, they wouldn't even know how to sign because they're illiterate. So they put a cross on a bit of paper. Well, rhino horns worth hundreds of millions of dollars were smuggled into the Chinese traditional market, medicine market, using this loophole. Now,
Like the bear gallbladders and all that stuff we
and
read
that's
about
where
with
the gallbladders and the tiger wine and lion wine come into it as well. So,
wine.
and this is still going on. So if you look at the CITES trade database, you will see the gallbladders of bears, the genitalia of bears and other animals as well, supposedly as hunting trophies. I mean, how the hell are you going to hang up a gallbladder of a bear above your fireplace? Right, that doesn't happen. But it's and also crocodile and rare lizard skins as well. Now, what the happens in terms of tiger wine and lion cake? So a way to make trophy hunting more accessible to the ordinary person has been to come up with caged lion hunting, what they call canned hunting. So this
Cage
is
hunting.
where
I've heard about this because of Tippy
right,
Hedren.
exactly.
That's a
So
big one here in the U.S. is cage hunting.
yeah. So what they do is they hand rear lions, but also tigers and leopards for trophy hunters to then shoot in enclosures. And so, for example, there was one guy I remember speaking to who was so proud of the fact that he shot this lion from a distance of 8 yards. Well, of course, he was able to get right up close to the lion because the lion was totally tame. It didn't have a natural fight or flight instinct anymore. He thought this guy was probably bringing it dinner.
Well,
And so
some of them they've got like the leash or a thing on their foot. They're tied to the fence.
well, I mean, there have been some very
Yeah.
extreme examples, that's for sure. But you still, I mean, there's still
Can't go
thousands of
anywhere.
these
They're in a
lions
fence.
in these factory farms in South Africa, and black leopards, and they breed and white tigers, and all sorts of things. So it's much cheaper to shoot one of these lions than shooting a wild lion. Why? Because in the wild, you're having to track a lion for days, maybe a couple of weeks, etc. Whereas if you're going into a fenced-in field, basically, you know where that lion is. You're not having to spend that much money. So instead of paying, well, Walter Palmer, who shot Cecil, he paid $54,000. You can get one of these canned lions for about $5,000. So suddenly it becomes affordable. Now, there's a way that you can subsidize that even further. Because you might remember when I was talking about the elephant trophy, all the taxidermist needs is a skin and a skull. So that's all a taxidermist needs for a lion trophy as well. So what you do is you get the skull and the skin, which goes off to the taxidermist. You sell the bones, the skeleton, back to the dealer. So
To the
either to
traffickers.
the guy who's bred the animal in the first place, or to one of these many Chinese and Vietnamese dealers that operate in southern Africa. That is then turned into wine or cake. So for the
They what
wine,
stash it, the powder.
so
Who drinks this?
there's different ways of doing it. So some they soak the skeleton and the bones inside of wine. Sometimes they grind it up and add, other bits of bone ground up as well for consistency. I mean, there's also the real premium stuff like, tiger penis wine. You can literally get tiger penis wine as well. That's about $500 a bottle if you fancy that kind of thing. And who could possibly turn that
I'm
down?
dead now. I don't even what the
Yeah.
yeah,
So
okay. And
yeah, that's
and
how
people
that
buy
happens.
this. There are people who actually will buy this and put this in their body and drink this.
Well, it's apparently it's a status thing. It's supposed to make you more virile, and all of this other nonsense, which is clearly Looney Tunes. But yeah, so you've got all of these different side industries that are and poaching and illegal wildlife trade that are happening off the back of trophy hunting. And the reason I say it's a really important point to make because people say, oh, poaching is really bad, but trophy hunting, these people are contributing to conservation. No, they are two sides of the same coin. Where
it's
trophy hunting
underground
happens,
poaching.
poaching will come.
It's they say we went trophy hunting because that's legal, and then they're selling all the parts off to the people who were doing the poaching for the material. They're
Yeah.
trafficking in the animal parts where it's illegal to traffic because they're saying, oh no, I just got a trophy, but they on the side sold off the stuff to the black market.
Exactly. And you've got people who are involved in the lion bone trade who are also involved in rhino horn smuggling. I mean, it is a massive, massive industry. And so much of our wildlife today is under threat. Yeah, I used to work for the World Wildlife Fund, and I was involved in a team that produced the Living Planet report, which looked at the wildlife populations around the world. And the last report that WWF published, which was last year, showed wildlife populations as a whole have declined by 70% since the 1970s. Right, we've got all of these problems, habitat destruction, and you've got climate change, you've got persecution, all the rest of it. Trophy hunting is making a bad situation even worse. I mean, so apart from the fact that it's absolutely immoral. I mean, how can we possibly allow this to happen? We think we're a modern civilized society. And we're doing something which is absolutely barbaric. It feels like something from the Middle Ages, and at the same time, it is wreaking incredible damage on wildlife.
It's just like appalling, and the motivation behind it being super duper revolting as well. Now, your documentary is Britain's Trophy Hunters, and is this you went behind the scenes? Now, I do have to ask, how did you pull this off without having to kill anything? Because it's like when people go undercover cops for drug raids, usually someone wants to see them do drugs. They have to have some reason that they somehow can't sample the supply. How the hell did you get around not killing a bunch of stuff while you were with them?
Well, without giving all of our trade secrets away, but we basically had a legend that puts us at one step removed, if you like, from being an actual trophy hunter. Very basically, we said we were there on behalf of a very rich trophy hunter and businessman who wanted to get into the business. And
Oh,
so he was
you're scouting, you're location scouting. You're working for someone
exactly,
else.
and
You're
also
checking out the hunting.
and also looking for partners, because we would need to find businesses to partner up with and to bring great parties of trophy hunters over. We actually,
These justice people are there for the money. There's the money as well as the rush. So if you
well,
just showed up and said, "I'm here for the money. I've got deals to be made and money to be paid to people," they'd let you
but
hang out.
as soon as they see dollar signs and the eyes light up and you'll the doors are open. We actually ended up rescuing a tiger cub as a result of this. It was almost an accident, but this was in fact an investigation, an undercover investigation we did 2 years ago, which was into the canned hunting industry, and so we were taken to these absolutely mind-blowing places where they were breeding white lions, they were breeding ligers, which are a tiger lion hybrid.
It's
They're
not
breeding
good.
white tigers and tabby tigers and black leopards and breeding everything actually, even breeding bobcats and all sorts of things. And again, they were all being captive bred, and so they were pretty tame. You could go right up to them and scratch their noses through the fences, kind of thing. Anyway, we found out there was this very young tiger cub. It wasn't very old at all, and already she'd been earmarked to be shot by a trophy hunter in one of these canned hunts. And we thought, God, should we try and save her? So we thought, well, we've got to at least try. And essentially, what we did, we said, well, look, our businessman guy back in London, he's very close to making his decision, and he's spoken to a few people. Now, personally, we like you, but we think we can help you seal the deal, which is going to be, make you a lot of money. Why don't you offer him a gift? For example, of this tiger cub.
The tiger.
You will be seen very favorably in his eyes. That will be seen as a sign that you're serious, you want to work with him, and so on. And they fell for it. They fell for it, and
This
then
is
they
the kind of
almost,
insanity that these people engage in, that's a normal thing to do.
yeah,
Hey, give me a
absolutely.
tiger.
Well, it was, they would, because I mean, the going rate for shooting a tiger was something like 35,000 euros. That's about the same in dollars. And but they thought that they could see millions coming down the line if they went into business with us and our big investor back in London. And so yeah, they said okay, and in the end they started getting suspicious, and then at one point we got a call from the guy saying he was about to go in and actually shoot the tiger himself, and then we had to sort of completely change plans and rush in there and take the tiger. Anyway, we managed by the skin of our teeth to get this tiger cub out. She's called Sally. She's lovely, by the way. And we made a film about her, and I wrote a book about her and the whole operation as well, and indeed the whole canned hunting industry and these awful, awful factory farms that are churning out lions and tigers and all sorts of other big cats just for people to shoot, and also for this side business of making tiger wine and lion cake at the same time.
Jesus Christ. Where can people see this documentary?
So the Britain's Trophy Hunters, that's actually on YouTube at the moment. If you sort of search that on YouTube, but for the one about Sally the tiger, we've got a dedicated website for that, and it's just called savingsally.org. So if you go to
SavingSally.org.
savingsally.org, you can watch the movie on there. It's not a long one. It's about 20 minutes, but it tells you everything you need to know. And thankfully, this was a story with a happy ending because they're not always happy endings.
Oh, God. And then the books are available. You said you've written eight, but the current one, the new one, the trilogy that are out, where are these available?
So these are all available on Amazon as well. So
Fantastic.
there's three, as you say. There's 20 elephants in 75 minutes. So that's about the world's top trophy hunters, people who've shot hundreds, sometimes even thousands, and them talking in their own words about what they got out of it, how they felt about it, and how much fun they had. Then we have shoot one lion, get one free. That was again a genuine offer that was made to me because I was investigating the hunting companies. So, people don't operate in isolation when they go and shoot a lion. There are businesses that sell trophy hunting holidays, many of them for the whole family. So even the children get to shoot. And they have special instructors to help kids because there's no age limit, by the way. You can turn up your 8 years old child will be taught how to shoot, and they can go and shoot monkeys and all sorts of. I mean, they can shoot tigers and lions if they want. There's no limits. There's no regulations. So shoot one lion, get one free. What is about the hunting companies, the ones who are involved in selling hunting holidays to shoot endangered animals in particular, so polar bears and cheetahs, as well as lions and rhinos. And then there's mainlining on heroin, which looks at the British trophy hunting industry, so the top hunters and the companies, because I wanted to do a book specifically about Britain because trophy hunting started with the British. It was them that exported it to Africa, exported it to India. And people often think, well, they're not really involved anymore. Well, they are. Some of the biggest
It really
companies.
is. Historically, it's a British thing. I was
Absolutely.
reading about that,
Yeah.
so that it was a thing that really started in England, and most of the trophy hunting around the world is by the British or someone who started by a British company.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a post I saw, ironically, on Facebook today by a company called Quagga Safaris, and it was boasting about the African Big Five hunts that they offer. So that's where you can shoot a lion, elephant, leopard, rhino, and buffalo all at the same time during the same hunt. And it was boasting about, the hit. Now, there's an irony in that because the quagga was a zebra-like animal that was literally hunted to extinction by trophy hunters, by British trophy hunters, including royals, by the way, at the end of the 19th century. And they use this name without the slightest sense of irony. They're using the name of an animal that has actually been hunted to extinction.
The
But you,
company, the tour, is named after the animal that they wiped off the face of the earth. Yes, that
yeah,
is the thing.
I mean, they have no sense of irony. But there's also a part of the industry where you can go and shoot extinct animals. I mean, it's as bizarre. In
What
fact,
the
you can
hell,
do.
who, how, what?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's animals, for example, there's one called the scimitar horned oryx. It was hunted to extinction from Central Africa, countries like Chad and Niger. It was hunted to extinction by trophy hunters in the 60s, maybe 70s. That's when the last ones died out. However, there have been a couple of ranches in Texas and some in South Africa as well, where they've bred them. And again, so you can come and shoot them in captivity. So you can add to your collection the thing that your peer, your fellow trophy hunter won't have. And that's of an animal that technically no longer exists. Same happens with
what they have like the last handful
the,
left and are breeding them. We're
they're
not going
breeding them
Jurassic
in
Park here.
captivity. They breed them in captivity just for trophy hunters to shoot. Same happens with the Arabian oryx. So the last one that was in the wild was shot in 1972 in Oman. But again, you've got places where you can go and shoot them in fenced-off ranches. The Pear David's deer, which comes from China originally. Again, there are places that you can go and shoot that. Doesn't exist in the wild anymore, only on these hunting estates, so you can add them to your collection.
It's flabbergasting. It's just like what the. And
But
how did you start? How did you start doing this? What prompted you to finally start doing this campaign?
it was, well, I suppose it was a coming together of a few things because the first trigger, I guess, was 2018 when the government of Botswana said it was going to start elephant trophy hunting again. So, under the previous president, Ian Khama, he'd banned all trophy hunting in the country. And as a result, Botswana became a real heartland for the African elephant. I mean, it's the size of maybe the state of Texas, so it's not a huge country, but it has 1/3 of all Africa's elephants in it.
Wow.
Twice as many as any other African country. So really important for conservation. So a new president came to power. He was wined and dined by Safari Club International. They flew him over to the US to the International Convention. They named him International Statesman of the Year and all the rest of it. And yeah, he agreed to start elephant trophy hunting again. And of course, you've got all these big tuskers there. So the trophy hunters were really pleased. So when I saw that on a news flash, I think it was Agence France Presse. So one of the news agencies carried this, and I thought, what the hell was that? And
Right. Yeah.
and I'd previously worked as a journalist, as an investigative journalist, and I'd also been a CEO of a large British animal welfare charity. And I'd worked with undercover investigators to infiltrate and break a dogfighting crime ring. So dogfighting, again, it's one of these things that happens in the shadows. It's happening all around us, all over the world.
That's still a thing that's happening. The idea that is still happening is amazing.
Yeah.
But yes, people, well, I mean, even here in Los Angeles, they break up dogfighting rings all the time with pit bulls and breeding of pit bulls and the torture that the dogs go through. And that's very common.
Absolutely. And, the stealing of pets to use as bait animals and so on and so forth.
A lot of people whose animals have been kidnapped for that.
That actually, one time I went to Parliament, to the UK Parliament, with a rescued bait dog called Cupcake. She was a lovely, lovely sort of pit bull stroke Staffordshire Bull Terrier. And she'd been rescued and she'd been wonderfully rehabilitated by this amazing woman. And at the time, the maximum penalty for animal cruelty offences in Britain was 6 months jail. And I had a campaign to increase it. So I went to Parliament with Cupcake. And I did an event, spoke at an event in Parliament with lots of members of Parliament and Lords and all the rest of it. And I told the story of Cupcake with Cupcake sat behaving beautifully right next to me. And I've never seen a room full of politicians in tears before, but I did that day. And we got the law changed. It's now 5 years in jail. And as part of that campaign, we did this undercover investigation into dogfighting, and we discovered that in particular there was one really big crime syndicate operating out of Eastern Europe, out of Bulgaria, and they were involved in all sorts of other things, so gun smuggling, people trafficking, drugs, prostitution. I mean, the works. These were really bad. There seems to be
quite a crossover of one cruelty to another. I would imagine there's plenty of child trafficking and human trafficking with the people who traffic animals, because why would they care?
Well, I remember speaking to the New York Police Department and also a couple of assistant district attorneys in the US at the time, and they were telling me that there was an enormous crossover. In fact, so much so that if you managed to break up a dogfighting crime ring, you were going to break a whole load of crime. You were going to mop up a whole load of crime statistics because those people would be involved in everything. You'd find drugs, you'd find guns, you'd find the works. It was actually an efficient way of tackling crime was to go after the dogfighters. And yeah, and so we infiltrated this gang and we managed, in fact, to break it up. And about 100 dogs got rescued and a bunch of people went to prison. And so I teamed up with the same guys that I'd worked with back then on that investigation to start on the trophy hunting work. Um, and to start, getting the contact details of trophy hunters. Often it'd be because I would approach a hunting company and I'd say, hey, listen, you've got some great stuff there. I'd like to come and shoot some of these things. Have you got any previous clients who could provide me with a testimonial, who'd be able to vouch for you? And almost always they would give me phone numbers and email addresses, and I'd be off to the races, and we'd start the contacts there. And then, yes, we also started talking to hunting companies about partnerships and possible business opportunities, and that's how we then got to see the premises, the hunting estates, got introduced to their taxidermists that they partnered with, and some of their leading clients with the most numbers of animals, and so on and so forth. And we had to obviously stay undercover for several years to be able to get as much information as possible without those what the police would say lines of inquiry being shut off. But it was quite a scary world to be inside.
And it sounds like that basically the way you got in was not so much saying, "Oh, hi, I want to hunt." You came in and said, "I can make you. I have money. I have money. I have a guy with money. I will give you money. I have a guy with money who will make you more money. Let me in." And they were handing over the friends found numbers and saying, "Come on over to the estate." Like that. Basically, it's about the money. It's always about the money.
It often is. And, there's a phrase that psychologists use in relation to trophy hunters. They call it a form of costly signaling. So, trophy hunting is a way of showing off your wealth and hence prowess. Because, if you've got a collection of 400 animals, including lions and elephants and rhinos and leopards, you will have spent a lot of money. Remember Walter Palmer, to shoot that one lion, he spent $50,000. Then on top of that, he would have spent a few $1,000s on the taxidermy. He'd have spent a few $1,000s more on the shipping. And then if he wanted to get his name listed in a record book, he would pay for an official measurer to come and measure that line. If he wanted to put it forward for an award, he would have to pay a listing fee. And if he wanted the statuette or the plaque at the end of it, he'd have to pay another $3,000, $4,000, etc. So if you've got somebody who shot 300 or 400 animals, or 500 or 700 or 4,000, you've got a lot of money. And
So
this
when
is
a
one
guy
way.
walks into the den of another one of these guys and sees the 47 elephants and lion staggers on the wall, he's not going, "Why you kill it?" He's going, "Ka-ching, ka-ching." He's like, the math is going in his head. This guy has a lot of money
Yeah,
because he knows exactly how much he
absolutely.
spent on this crap.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why, President Trump, in his first campaign, he did one of these fundraising dinners at the home of Steve Chancellor. And Steve Chancellor, who's a Californian businessman, he used to be involved in the coal industry, and he has 500 bodies of animals in his home in California, where he would hold these fundraising dinners, including around 50 lions. And so anyone who's going to come to one of those dinners is going to be impressed one way or the other, depending on how you feel about these things. But this is this was going to touch a lot of those buttons of the people that Trump wanted to impress. So this is why that was such a, yeah. And of course, as we know, the president's sons, Eric and Donald Jr., are both leading trophy hunters. But yeah, so it is a form of yeah, showing your prowess, and it's a very male thing, right? It's showing just how big and strong you are because you've killed all of these animals and you've got all this wealth and power to do
You
it.
know, you might have killed one that was sitting in a little tiny fence and couldn't go anywhere because you're a giant wuss. This is just unspeakable and horrible. And There's so much about you in your bio. You also were almost completely disabled by an illness, I was reading, and yet you continue to fight.
Yeah, I had one of those diagnoses a few years ago, and yeah, it left me, bedridden and in a wheelchair,
My God.
and I spent months in hospital, and I had, you get these, how sometimes you have conversations which were short, but you remember that conversation, however long it happened, really, really clearly. I mean, I remember one, it was my neurologist ringing me saying, "We found a shadow in your brain." And another one, again from a different neurologist saying, the PET scan has shown, you've got lumps everywhere. Your body lit up like a Christmas tree, was what she said, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was a difficult diagnosis, but it was yeah. In a way, the campaign has helped being a form of rehabilitation, because I did actually have to retire from my job from mental for medical reasons. In fact, I was the CEO of a large charity in Britain at the time, and I had to step down. And this was kind of a way of me being able to still do something, when certainly everything that my 10 different consultants were saying, you can't really expect to do anything like this ever again. So it's in a way it's been a positive challenge as well.
It's just incredible what you're doing. It's just that exactly it said, oh, you won't be doing much. I think you're doing plenty. How do people find you? I have to wrap this thing up. I could sit here for 3 hours and do this. How can people find you and get a hold of you in that way, learn about all the stuff that you're doing and help out?
Well, with trophy hunting, we've got a website. It's just bantrophyhunting.org, and there you can get the books. There's all sorts of resources and more information about trophy hunters, trophy hunting businesses, and the industry, and so on. So everything you could possibly want, and of course, how you can help, how you can get involved, what you can do to bring this stupid, cruel, barbaric nonsense to the end. It should have ended years and years ago, but we can end it now. If you want to find out about me, I'm much less interesting, but I do have a website, and that's eduardogonçalves.com. I talk there about some of the issues that I've worked in over my life, from homelessness and climate and environment and wildlife conservation, and also encouraging people to be donors. To donate their organs after they pass, because that's something that's really important as well.
Wow. I am so glad I had you on the show. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I may have to have you back at this rate. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, this is the Alison Arngrim Show, and I'm Alison Arngrim. I found my way home.